Hey everyone, Tim here from SnapAttack. Happy New Year, and let's dig into this week's Threat Snapshot. So we're going to cover an attack vector that was disclosed late last year, but we're seeing some prevalence and activity around it, and wanted to make sure we did a snapshot on it because I think it's particularly important. This is a little bit more of an evergreen technique around NTLM relay. Specifically, we're using a forced authentication mechanism and a Microsoft Access database. Probably think to yourself, when was the last time somebody emailed or sent me an Access database? It's pretty rare, but it's going to use a built-in feature here called a linked database, which is actually discovered by Checkpoint Research. So Hacker News picked this up in November of last year. They wrote about this, but I'm going to go back to the source here from Checkpoint. They're actually the ones who saw attackers using this activity. And it's very interesting here. So Microsoft Access, as you know, it's a database application where you can store your data in there, interact with it. It's kind of like a GUI for a database. You can build your forms. And the Access database, in particular with all of these Microsoft applications, they make it very easy to embed these files and other things. So you don't necessarily have to send the Access database. You could embed it in a Word document, an Excel file, even a rich text format RTF document here. And what this is really doing behind the scenes is you are basically creating a linked table in Microsoft Access. So instead of storing the data in the database itself, we're going to go out to, say, a SQL server where that data is going to reside, and we'll configure that. And Microsoft tries to be helpful here, and this is where it's the forced authentication attack is by default, you can say, I want this form to take the authenticated user that I'm currently running as, take their NTLM credentials, take those hashes, and relay those to try and log in as that user. Again, it's kind of like a usability, almost like a single sign-on thing. I'm already logged into my laptop. I open up this Access database. I'm going to go reach out to the SQL server with those credentials, and hopefully I get that data, again, permissioned under my account. So, the happy path, everything works that way. The downside here is when you're, forcing that authentication and the user doesn't have the opportunity to choose, what they want to authenticate as, it's going to send that information there. An attacker can intercept that, they can relay it, and they can even, potentially crack those hashes too. So if you want to know a little bit more about the attack and the details here, feel free to read the blog post. We'll link that in. But let's hop over to SnapAttack and take a look at this threat. So we recreated this NTLM relay with Microsoft Access. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. Most basically, you can just send somebody an Access database. We kind of mirrored what we're seeing more often attackers are doing. So we have a malicious Word document that's here. We're going to click play. This can be a macro-enabled document. We're going to open this up. And again, not anything super stealthy here. You're going to see a couple of windows pop up, including a PowerShell. This is a download execute cradle where we're going to go and download that Access database. And then you're going to see us opening up that Access database in the background. It's going to try to connect. You're going to see that connection failure because it's not actually a SQL server. And if I hop over from our victim machine to our attacker machine, you can even see here in the corner, we've got, responder up. You can use ntlmrelayx, your tool of your choice. And we can see here that we captured that NTLM hash. So we could get in crack, we could replay that. That's a very powerful thing for, a second phase of the attack. If that user has, administrative privileges or other stuff, you think some of the follow-on, exploits, lots of opportunity here from this is a very likely initial access payload. So good news is this is very detectable. Some of these detections have been around for a while. The method that they're using here for the NTLM relay isn't really anything new. The new part is just using a Microsoft Access linked database as the attack vector. So I'm going to talk a little bit about detection opportunities here. There's always, again, the parent-child relationship sort of thing where, we can see in our example, we have WinWord, opening up this document, launching PowerShell, that download execute cradle. There's attacks for that, and detections, and then also that Microsoft Access file. So we can see here that this is being opened up, our relay our Access database, and then that's going to do some interesting things here as well, which is where most of these detections lie. You could detect earlier in the kill chain, you could detect later in the kill chain, but let's talk about some of the artifacts that it leaves behind. So a couple of detections that are, from the Sigma community. You can see here, like this, linked reference goes back to 2016. So again, trust records, macros, this is not anything, new or earth-shattering. Again, it's just a new mechanism delivery here. And this is going to look for registry events that are targeting this particular key where the trust record is. And you can see here that Microsoft Access is, storing that account here and saying that this Access database is trusted to connect to that file, that share and do that relay. So, this is an artifact that will be left behind. If you can monitor registry, you can definitely see that. Another similar detection here from Sigma community, again, looking at registry documents with that record as well as some other objects here. So a little more specific, but again, this is a good way to do that if you have registry. Both of these detections are available. Again, with SnapAttack, you can deploy with a click of a button. Another way that you can look at this is looking at network connections. So that forced authentication, that relay, you're going to see Microsoft Access reaching out to another server, which is where you're going to have, say, responder listening. So you can be looking for that connection. Good hunting opportunity at its most basic, detection. You'd be looking for MS Access and is it making any connections? Probably going to see some 1433 if you have SQL servers that's connecting to, hunt and make sure that that's actually a SQL server in your network and not an attacker who's, just using that port masquerading. Typically port 80, 443, some of those others are going to be there. So you can see here that, Microsoft Access was reaching out to 1433 here. That's where we had responder open and we were able to get that hash. So lots of opportunities for detection, for threat hunting. This is also something that you can use our attack scripts and libraries to test your defenses. So we've got a malicious access document that's going to, again, perform this attack. You can test this in your network, see if you can respond, detect that threat. So lots of opportunities there. And yeah, that's our threat snapshot for this week. Again, this is a weekly series. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.